Good evening. Welcome, everyone, to the Thursday, October 9th, 2025 edition of the Transportation Mobility Advisory Commission, what we love to call TransMAC. We have ventured out from the friendly confines of the Orange County Administration Building out here to the South Econ Recreation Center here in District 3. And this is the very first of our meetings that we've held outside of the Orange County Chambers. But we are a citizen-led advisory board. We represent the citizens of Orange County, so we thought it was important for us to get out to the citizens of Orange County and for us to come to you so we can hear close about the issues you have with transportation in your community and your neighborhoods. So this is the very first of those meetings to come. And we're very happy to be here. So like I said, we are the Transportation Mobility Advisory Commission. We are a citizen-led advisory board that was created by the voters of Orange County in November 2024 as a charter amendment. We have three responsibilities within the confines of the charter. We review the annual budget, proposed budget expenditures for the county transportation and make recommendations to the Board of County Commission. We have the ability to audit past expenditures for efficiency and effectiveness, and also research future mobility innovations, figure out what's coming next in transportation. How can we get ahead of the game in Orange County instead of playing catch up and prepare for the future? So again, welcome to members of the community who have joined us here this evening and all the people watching at home on Orange TV. You know, there's a big game tonight, guys. It's the Giants and the Eagles. Go Birds. So we're going to do something we never do tonight. We're going to get out of here in under 2 hours. I have faith in all of us. What do you guys think? Can we do it? Go Birds. All right, so, but the first thing we're going to start off with is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone could please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, since we are in District 3, which is led by Commissioner Myra Uribe, she is going to be offering us a few words here. I know she is on her way, so we'll give her a few minutes to get here. So I know transportation is a big passion of hers, so I know she'll bring some very informative and inspiring comments once she arrives. But before, while we wait for that, we will start with our public comment. And I've received one public comment card, which we'll start with in just a minute. But if anyone else is interested in offering public comment, when I give you the chance, you can come up to the podium here, state your name, address for the record. You'll be given 3 minutes, and then just make sure you fill out a card with the clerk for afterwards for the record. So the one card I've received so far is R.J. Mueller. Welcome, Mr. Mueller. You know the deal, name, address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is R.J. Mueller, 14366 Stanford Circle, Orlando 32826. Okay. I need 6 seconds back. I'm kidding.
We'll be very generous.
I'm here to talk about motorized vehicles. You may be more familiar with the term micromobility. A few years ago, to emphasize the need for bike lanes, I stood before the BCC and showed a video of me taking my life in my hands, riding down McCulloch Road on my bike. There's no bike lanes on McCulloch. Since then, a cyclist was killed on McCulloch, and later a young man lost his life on an electric one-wheeled skateboard. The danger is real. People just won't ride on McCulloch Road. I was advocating for bike lanes, but my mistake was not looking ahead to the wave of motorized vehicles. I should have seen it, because even then I was riding and building electric bikes, but they topped out at 15 miles per hour. Today, that same feeling of cars flying by me at 50 miles an hour on McCulloch Road is a feeling I get walking down a 5-foot sidewalk while e-bikes, scooters, skateboards, even electric motorcycles blast by me at 20-plus miles per hour. We must be forward-thinking. We don't just have bikes anymore. We have motorized vehicles on sidewalks. I once used the word micromobility, but that word sugarcoats the reality. These are motorized vehicles. Let's call them what they are. I've gone from advocating bike lanes to advocating 10-foot paths because most people don't have the guts to ride in a bike lane. 10-foot paths work, but cost and space mean we can't build them anywhere. Right now, we're in the Wild West. Everyone trying to be the fastest gunslinger on a motorized vehicle. Order must come. Laws must be enforced. If you take anything away from my comments, take this. Stop saying bikes and stop saying micromobility, because these are motorized vehicles. They're not micromobility, because naming it makes clear the challenge we face and the changes that must come in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. And that's kind of a prescient comment, because safety and micromobility is something that we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about a little bit later in our discussion here tonight, so that's a great preview of that conversation coming later. So thank you for your comments, Mr. Mueller. Would any other members of the public like to grace this commission with 3 minutes of public comment? We'd love to hear from you. We are here to hear for you guys. We are representing you, so we'd love to hear from you. I promise we're very open and we won't bite. Pedro, I see you're ready to go.
Hi, my name is Pedro Rodriguez. Address is 1103 Ensenada Drive, and I'm just a resident of the area. One of the big things around this area is, unlike areas like in downtown, Winter Park, Kissimmee, there's barely any there's barely any kind of pedestrian-focused infrastructure that makes it viable. So, for example, in my area, I had at one point had to drop off my mother's car to the Firestone in the Rio Pinar Plaza. And to walk back, it took me 30 minutes just to walk back in the summer heat. So just seeing, even if we have just bike lanes, having more, better shortcuts from neighborhoods to these plaza areas or even just to other neighborhoods is a massive improvement for these suburban areas. And that's what I hope to see more from Orange County in general. So with that kind of infrastructure, it's easier to focus on the development overall. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you so much. And yet, if I could just build on that a little bit, this is my first time visiting the South Econ Recreation Center, and I couldn't help but notice that the road on which you approach the South Econ Recreation Center, now this is a place with parks, people playing sports, there are children around, there's a senior center here as well. The community center seemed to lack some surrounding communities. So it's a road in which I think it was 45 or 50 miles an hour. That they actually had to put signs as you approach it that the entrance is coming, because they're, I guess, assuming probably based on experience that you're going so fast that you actually need to slow down so you can make the turn into the community center recreation area. And this is a place where it would seem to me in the community that you only get here by driving. I can't imagine sending my kids out on bikes or scooters to come here. The sidewalks appear to be 5-foot regular sidewalks, skinny sidewalks on both sides. So just building on Pedro's comments there, it kind of surprised me of the land use and the road facilities that surrounded this community center. So thank you so much for your comments. Any other members of the public who would like to address the commission at this time? Okay, well, thank you so much for your attendance. So one thing I think we can do is dispose of our consent agenda, which is approval and execution of the minutes of the September 11th, 2025 meeting of TransMAC. Did everyone have a chance to take a look at the minutes, and did they see if any corrections, additions, or edits were required? And just so everyone knows, here on our queue system here tonight, you hit the right-hand button, and when your light goes red, that means your mic is hot, just so everyone knows how the system works here. Any edits or corrections to the minutes from anyone? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, motion to approve the minutes by Member Olson, seconded by Member Hoyos. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Minutes are approved. Okay. Let's see. As we wait for Fortunately, the commissioner has not yet arrived. Do we think we should start with our presentation? Okay, and then we'll do, when the commissioner arrives, we'll work with that. But our first presentation we have tonight, I usually like to start the meeting with this ahead of time so the public knows what is coming down the pike, so I apologize for doing so. But tonight we're going to hear from Representative FDOT about their amazing safety project on Orange Blossom Trail that turned one of the most dangerous corridors in Orange County for pedestrians and cyclists to something much more safer. So I've been very excited about having FDOT come in here and talk about it so we can think about what corridors in Orange County, which we control as a county, what can we do similar projects to make them safer. So Lorraine Bobo is here from FDOT, and thank you so much for being here. Yeah, the right-hand button there.
Okay.
And
Very
you're
good.
live.
All right. Well, good evening. My name is Lorraine Bobo, and I'm with the Florida Department of Transportation here in District 5, which covers 9 counties in Central Florida. And I'm our district's safety administrator. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight to share with you about the OBT Safety Pedestrian Project. We're very, very proud of it. So thank you for recognizing it. So FDOT's number one priority is safety. We have a goal of 0, that's target 0, 0 fatalities and serious injuries on our roadways. You're likely familiar with that term of 0. Orange County has adopted Vision 0. I like to say that Target 0 and Vision 0 are very similar. They both have a goal of 0 fatalities and serious injuries on our roadways. So every day in Florida, we lose 8 people on our roadways. That's 8 people who woke up, had breakfast, planned on going to their son's baseball game, whatever it may be, and they didn't make it home. And that is just not okay. Here in Central Florida, we lose about 2 people a day. Again, not okay. Those are our friends, our families, our coworkers. I'm going to say it again, it is not okay. So just to give you a little information about Central Florida, last year in our 9 counties on state and local roads, this is all roads, we lost 650 people. If you look at the chart, is it auto advancing? I thought we tried to fix that. Maybe I clicked it too fast, sorry. Back one, if you don't mind. No. Yeah, one more maybe. There we go. All right. So you will see on this chart that the numbers are going down. So that is good, but we're not there. And I apologize, my slides are advancing. I thought we could fix this right before. 30% of those people are people walking and biking are most vulnerable. All right. Yeah, I know. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Someone doesn't really want you talking about those stats.
I knew I had this issue. Yeah. In a majority of our crashes, behavior is a contributing factor. So we want to work on our infrastructure. We want to do as much as we possibly can. But at the end of the day, we can build the safest road. But if you're on your phone, somebody's on their phone, there's a possibility that we're going to have that interaction. So there's this idea of the safe system approach. It's not just one thing that's going to get us to 0. It's safer roads. It's safer users. Sorry, my slides keep going forward. It's our safer vehicles. It's all of those things are going to get us to 0, not just one thing. Yeah. Your slides might be set for time. I know, and I thought we fixed it right before, so that's on me. So what I'm going to talk mostly about today is the infrastructure and the behavioral side. What can users do, and what can we do on our roadways? So infrastructure. So why does that speed matter? If vehicle interacts with a person walking or biking at 40 miles per hour, they have a 10% chance of survival. That is not very high. But if that speed is slower to 20 miles per hour, they have a 90% chance of survival. So that's why we look at our roadways. What's the context? We want to make sure that we are getting that speed as low as possible for the context of that roadway. So our approach to our roadways is we want to look for, let's take our resurfacing projects. We're already going to be out there putting down new asphalt. Let's see what we can do in that corridor. Are there crashes occurring? What's happening so that we can make that roadway safer? We also want to build a project that's right for that community. An OBT is going to be different than Cimarron, is going to be different than A1A, out at the beaches, for example. We want to do that with the community. What is that community? What is their sense of vision? You were talking earlier about, the community here. What does the community here want to be able to get to where they're going? So there's three things that we talk about when we're talking about speed management. Enclosure is the first one. Protected bike lanes, enclose that bicyclist in that lane so they do have some protection from drivers. Medians and street trees kind of helps to create that almost like tunnel, right? It's if you feel closer in, you're less likely to have your phone up and feel like you can do other things other than driving, for example. Engagement. Hey, there's what's going on along this roadway. It's again, those aesthetics and that landscaping really helps kind of draw that driver in so that what they're focusing on is driving. Deflection. Roundabouts, I think, are really great. They slow you down. We can design them so as you're coming in, you're going slower, but you're still moving through that intersection. Raised crossings, chicanes in the road. If it's a straight, wide shot, you're more likely to go faster because you feel comfortable driving faster. So a lot of these things are to affect your behavior without you really even realizing it. So this is a project in Winter Park. I think it's called Brewer's Curve. This is a great example of a community that came to the department. We had a resurfacing coming through and they were like, we need more through this area. People are flying through this area. So we're adding a lot of these features to that project. I apologize, I'm like back a few slides and I can't go back. So I'm going to talk to you about the OBT project a little bit of history. Around 2018, we were tasked by central office, every district, to identify our worst corridor for people walking and biking, our deadliest corridor. So this corridor had anywhere from 2 to 5 pedestrian fatalities a year. So that's quite a few people in 1 mile. Are we able to go back a few slides? I'm sorry. Yeah, so we'll hold there for just a second. This area has a lot of people using transit. They're walking to get to work. They're walking and biking to just live their lives. And what was happening is there were signalized crossings, but they were further apart, and people would just walk wherever they wanted. Hey, I need to get over there. I see a gap, I'll go. Unfortunately, that is where we saw a lot of our fatalities in those mid-blocks. You saw the slide with the number of fatalities that we had over every year. I think it was up to like 18 fatalities in kind of that 10-year time period, which is quite a bit. So let's see here. This is a picture of some of those raised crosswalks at night. Those in-road lighting matches what's going on up ahead. So that driver knows something is happening at this crossing. This is a pedestrian hybrid beacon. They are dark until somebody pushes that button. So traffic's moving. It only stops when a pedestrian comes up and pushes that button. So one of the great things about this project is, and our goal was to reduce the speed along this corridor. It was posted at 40 miles per hour before. It's posted at 35 now. And, we achieved lowering those speeds. If you really looked at all the numbers along that chart, they were probably in the 38 mile per hour. So you could be like, well, did you really achieve what you wanted? Well, folks were going 50. They weren't going the posted speed of 40. So we really did achieve lowering those speeds on that corridor. So I like this slide because it shows that we've not only reduced the number of crashes, but we've reduced the number of fatalities and serious injuries in this 1 mile. Up until July, we were 1 month short of 3 years of 0 fatalities in this 1 mile. So that is success. You think of the number of people that went home every night. And that's one thing about safety is we know the numbers of how many people we have lost on our roads, but we don't know how many people we have saved based on the decisions that we have made. Decisions that you all made coming here today, not running a red light, going the speed limit, wearing your seatbelt, stopping for the person in the crosswalk. Those are all opportunities where somebody's life was saved. I will tell you that personally, on that Monday morning in July, when I learned about that fatality, it crushed me because we are so proud of what we have done in this corridor, and we could no longer say that we had 0 fatalities. But I thought about it a lot and realized we did save a lot of lives, even though we did lose that one. And to go back to that safe system approach, that individual pushed the button. Those lights were going off. 2 lanes of traffic stopped, and that 3rd lane did not. That wasn't the infrastructure failing. That was behavior. To share a little bit further, that individual fled the scene, which is against the law in Florida. Please do not do that. And then their vehicle was found a few blocks away on fire, so trying to cover the evidence. They did turn themselves in, but at the end of the day, that other person lost their life because of the decisions that other individual made. So just goes to show that we can be successful, but it also takes all of us and everybody else that's out there using the transportation to drive safely and walk safely. So this is just an overview of the project. Let me see if so we have been awarded several awards nationally for this project. I've had several meetings with Federal Highway. They want to understand how this can be replicated in other parts of the country, just like you all have asked to learn more about what can be done in Orange County. And I will say that Orange County is already doing a lot of projects like this. The UCF pedestrian project won an award at the Central Florida Safety Summit in May, so that's a great project as well. Let's see if this video shows. Really been looking at this area for several years now because there have been a lot of fatalities and serious injuries, especially with our most vulnerable users, people walking and biking.
Do whatever you need to do to make it safer. We installed those pedestrian hybrid beacons, or PHBs, at the 3 existing locations. It still wasn't enough. So I'll go back maybe and give a little bit of history of how we got to this point. So mid-block crossings have actually been there for a while. When this was still a 7-lane section, we had, in 2007, we installed 3 mid-block crossings. That wasn't doing enough. So then in 2012, we went in and we placed a raised median. So now it was a 6-lane divided facility. It still wasn't enough. So in 2014, we dropped the speed to 40 miles an hour. And then in 2020, we installed those pedestrian hybrid beacons, or PHBs, at the 3 existing locations. It still wasn't enough.
We truly, as the Department of Transportation, care about our communities. And we want to understand, how do people use our corridors? How do they get to and from? How, are they going to home? Are they going to school? Are they going to work? What are they doing?
and how can we get them there safely? Well, we started making enhancements along this corridor around 2007. We noticed an alarming trend that the fatalities, especially with our most vulnerable users, people walking and biking, were continuing, hitting a high in 2019, and we knew we needed to do more.
So with this project, along with the 3 additional crossings with the PHBs, we also installed raised crosswalks at all 6 locations, so raising the pedestrian up to have better line of sight with the drivers. Then we did in-road lighting at all of the locations. Those in-road lights work in sync with the PHB signal heads above. We did enhanced pavement markings leading up to the crosswalks, and then we also did median fencing and landscaping throughout the 1-mile stretch.
During the design process, we worked very closely with the transit agency Lynx to relocate the bus stops so that they were as convenient as possible to the passengers that will likely want to use the mid-block crossings.
So if a person walking or biking would like to cross, what they should do is they should walk up and they push that button. And what the drivers will now see is a yellow light flashing, then it goes red solid. And that's the point where that person walking or biking is given the go to cross. Once that light starts flashing red, what that tells the driver is if the crosswalk is clear, they can proceed with caution.
So before the project, our pedestrians were crossing kind of anywhere and everywhere along this 1-mile corridor, even if there was a crosswalk nearby. So the fencing and the landscaping that we put in the median was really, really critical in improving our pedestrian behavior as well, because now what that fencing and landscaping does is it does kind of discourage just crossing wherever they want, and it channels them to a safe designated crosswalk. Besides all the improvements that we made at the mid-block crossings themselves, throughout the rest of the project, we also dropped the posted speed from 40 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour. We installed speed feedback signs, which alert the driver of how fast they're speeding compared to how fast they should be going, as well as enhanced pedestrian lighting, and then again, that median fencing and landscaping as well.
Well, I think the responsibility is on everybody that uses the corridor, whether they're driving or walking or biking. We certainly want people walking and biking that want to cross to push those buttons so the lights do actuate. But we also want the drivers to slow down, be mindful of people that are walking and biking, and it is state law to stop for people in a crosswalk. So stopping, letting them through, everybody continues to move through and get home safely.
OBT feels very much like kind of a toolbox or a template for other projects.
Since we completed the project in October of 2023, we have had no reported fatalities or serious injuries along this corridor. This very much aligns with our Target Zero initiative.
I need to update the video. Should be laughing about that. I'm not laughing about that. So to kind of bigger picture, we have worked on the Central Florida Safety Strategic Plan. The department has developed that plan along with all of our partners across Central Florida, all the counties, cities, law enforcement, schools, health centers. Everybody that wants to help get to zero has helped develop this plan. And so if you'd like to learn more, we invite you to visit that QR code to learn more about the action steps that we're doing and our steering committee. We're going to keep working on that until we get to zero. And then we do have a website that has the Central Florida Safety Strategic Plan, our Safety Central newsletter, tips and resources that you could share with your communities regarding safety. And if I have one more minute, you see the starfish there getting to zero together. I just wanted to share the starfish story. So there's a little boy, he's walking along the beach and there's hundreds of starfish. He's picking them up one by one and throwing them back. Old man comes along, what are you doing? It's a wasted effort. You'll never save all of them. And he picks one up and he throws it back. He says it mattered to that one. So it's kind of the guiding light that we use, that every decision that we make, whether it's on a project, whether it's when we're driving or teaching our kids how to be safe transportation users, it mattered to that one, so it's worth it. So I'm going to share a safety second because it takes just a second to be safe. It is National Pedestrian Safety Month, so just encourage you to be more aware of pedestrians as you're driving, or if you are a pedestrian, acting as safely as possible. I was sharing with a group this morning that I've been driving my son to high school when he needs a little bit of extra sleep because the bus comes very early. And there's this one turn that every morning there is a high schooler that's wanting to cross that has the walk, and people are just turning. So it is a state road. I know people, so I'm going to do my best to make some improvements there. But it's just an awareness that we all need to pay attention. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I apologize for the technical difficulties that was on my end, but I appreciate your patience with that. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. Great presentation. And, this is what happens when you go on the road sometimes. We got to deal with things, and we work through it. It's great. Before we get to questions for Ms. Bobo, I want to recognize, Commissioner Uribe, Myra Uribe, District Commissioner, has joined us. Out of deference to, I know, her very, very busy schedule, if you would like to come up, you're good? Okay, this is an inquisitive bunch, so sometimes we ask a lot of questions, so I did want to leave that open to you. Okay.
She's great. Marian's good.
So, okay. So we'll go with questions here from the Commission. I will get us started. To me, there's no monetary value you can put on a human life and the lives you have saved with this project. But unfortunately, the cost of things is something that we do need to consider here in Orange County. And the one thing we all know here on the Commission in our short time here is that the resources are limited. So if I can ask you about the cost of the project overall.
Yes, I think we ended at $8.9 million.
Okay, $8.9 million, and it sounds like a big number in isolation, but what we have seen here, I think, on the Commission, really, that's kind of pennies on the dollar, a relatively low amount of a major transportation investment to save that number of lives. It's really, really impressive. Thank you. So we'll go to other Commission member questions. Mohammed.
Is it on? Okay, I guess. Thank you, Ms. Bobo. Great presentation. Do have a couple of questions. So that was one of my questions. 8.9 million, is that for the totality of the improvements starting back in
No, it would just be this last one that we completed about 3 years ago.
Okay. And Mr. Chair, as you said, that is a pittance in the scheme of things. I think Orange County's current generalized cost is about $6 million per lane mile to construct a road. So if we can retrofit roads 1 mile, a 6-lane road to make it safer and more, for all users, more traversable for all users, that's a good investment for sure. A couple quick, first comment is I just want to commend the district and the department for stepping way out of your typical bounds to do this project, and that's appreciate us highlighting it here, because certainly showed the change in thinking at the DOT and at the local level. This is a major arterial that is designated. I'm not sure if it's on the CIS or not, but I know it's definitely a major arterial here.
It's very busy.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So for the department to go out and say we're going to apply these tools that were historically vertical deflection on a roadway like this is reserved for neighborhood roads typically, and you guys came out and did it here. So the fact that the department became so forward-thinking and willing to step out of the comfort zone to achieve the goal speaks volumes to your commitment to the goal. So I just wanted to come out and say that. Question to you on if you're, I know you've been involved in this for a while, the evolution within the department to go from the hard-nosed engineers, our books in AASHTO, to this. How did that come about?
So the department adopted the idea of target speed. I think it showed up in our 2018 speed management. And the idea of target speed is your design speed and your posted speed are the same. So before, we might have a posted speed of 35, but we're designing to 45 because people are probably going to drive 45. So now the mindset is, no, we want them to drive 35, so let's design the roadway so that you're not comfortable driving more than 35, right? So that, I think, was kind of probably one of the fundamental changes. And really just that idea of 0 is the only acceptable number. If you had talked to folks before, it was like, well, you know, I mean, there's going to be fatalities. We just have to kind of accept that. No, we don't. You know, like that's not okay. You may have seen the DOT PSA out there, and they ask this guy, how many people are okay to die on our roads every day or every year, whatever it is. And I think he says 50. And then 50 of his family and friends come around the corner, you know, and it's like, oh, well, not those 50, which is, you know, so the idea is, you know, 0 is achievable. We've actually, right now, we're going through an effort to identify what we're kind of dubbing the next OBT. What's that next corridor that we really need to throw everything at, you know? Obviously, we have limited budgets, just as the county does. So we do have to balance all of that. But if we can just start knocking off those worst corridors, you know, and then when we see another corridor that looks very similar, apply similar things within our budgets, then let's just keep at it.
Was there a significant pushback from the more traditional parts of the DOT when you were coming out?
Well, I think when the speed management chapter changed, it started making these types of things the standard, right? So it's kind of embedded into the traffic engineering manual, the Florida design manual. Like it's built into all of those things, so you kind of have to do it, which definitely helps. So then it's not an internal, you know, I'll use the word argument. That's not what I mean. We're not arguing with each other, but it's, you know, do we do this or do we do that? Well, no, this is the standard. Yeah. So. Yeah.
And along those lines, there's obviously a offset to capacity when you're implementing these types of tools. Of course, a 6-lane road, as you mentioned earlier, quite busy. Have you all seen a significant reduction in movement of vehicles through the corridor?
So it's interesting you asked that. Not long after this project finished, so 2-ish years ago, we were getting some feedback that, oh, there's a lot of trucks. They're diverting around here. They don't want to go over the raised crosswalks. So, okay, well, let's see what's going on. So we used some different, you know, street light and some different ways to kind of understand what's happening. They're still going through the corridor. We're still getting that same capacity through. I think the trucks that people were seeing were making deliveries to businesses very nearby, off, you know, right off. But because we've just done the project, it's like, oh, why is this truck on this road? Well, it's just doing what it needs to do. But no, we've seen people are still coming through. They can still traverse it. I don't think we went into it in the video, but one of the things that we worked with Lynx on was the design of the actual raised crosswalks. What is going to work best with those long buses? You know, because they need to get through this corridor as quickly, you know, not as quickly, but as, you know, as safely, and you don't want a rough ride as you're going through. And if you're going at 30 miles per hour, which I think earlier I said 35, so apologies for that. If you're going at 30, it's going to feel fine. You're going to get through just fine. So it's the same for semis and other vehicles like that.
Thank you.
And fire trucks. And we worked with them as well. So yeah.
They're always in our ear. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bobo.
Just to follow up real quickly on that last point there and what you were saying, Ms. Bobo, I think you were implying, and I want to make sure that, you know, we get this correct if it is the case, that so these were designed to slow people down, and you just mentioned it has slowed people down, but has there been any delay in the throughput of the cars? Because that's one of the things, you slow people down, I need to get where I'm going.
Yep.
one thing we've learned, I think, as a commission, even in a brief time, is that generally these things, if they make the road more efficient, it actually doesn't slow people down because they're moving through more efficiently. But is that the case here? Are we seeing more delays, or is the delay improved, say the same, or?
Yep, nope, that's actually something that we looked at as well, and it was about 4 seconds.
Of a delay?
Yeah.
So 4 seconds to save lives.
Yeah.
Okay, Zach, you're up next.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the hard work. I shouldn't have to reemphasize, but certainly the value of human life should be a prime consideration when we're looking at any type of infrastructure, but especially transportation. So there's actually some information that I was curious about with this specific project, and if you don't have access to it, that's fine, but was there any kind of negative feedback from the community of people perhaps being like, well, I was fine crossing the street the way it was before, and now you've made me upset because it's less efficient?
We have not heard that. We actually, because I was curious one day, we have on average every 600 feet somewhere to cross. So between the 6 mid-block PHBs and the signalized crossings, so 600 feet I don't think is as, it's not 2,000, right?
Sure.
And so there's so many places to cross. And I will say it's a beautiful thing when you go down that corridor and those lights are lighting up, people are using them and cars are stopping for them. But if you look down the corridor, there's a bunch of them. So I think that's really helped.
Yeah, that's great. And then I guess to circle back around to one of the public comments from earlier, I'm not sure if you were here for it, but a gentleman brought up the issue of e-bikes using the shared sidewalks that are already narrow. Is FDOT at all invested in considering or exploring this type of transportation thinking in terms of sidewalks and paths and places that aren't for cars?
So yes, it's probably the number one topic around the office right now. Right now, we're mostly approaching it from a safety standpoint of education to parents, to kids. Make sure you're always wearing that helmet. Make sure you know your county or city's ordinance, their laws on where you're allowed to ride, because there are many communities that are passing ordinances now. That's not really our lane, so we're not getting involved in that. But it is kind of changing the conversation because an e-bike is considered a bike. And I did hear the comments, but per statute, it is considered a bike. And so you do need to follow the laws that a bicycle needs to follow. Also in the statutes, a bicycle is a vehicle. So, you're still following all those laws of stopping for red lights and stop signs and speed limits and all of that type of thing. So we're probably more in that exploration mode because it is just coming fast and they are getting faster and things like that. So.
And does that translate at all to recommendations or advisements for counties or municipalities that are in the process of say okay, we're gonna review our sidewalk plan and decide if it's up to code or if we need to create a new code? Is there that level of interfacement, or is it still because you're early in the phases of exploring ideas that doesn't really take place?
I think I'll say it, I don't know that we're the experts at it, but I think that collaboration, we should absolutely be talking about, going back to the slide about building the right project for that community. Because I think part of the struggle too is, for example, a trail is not allowing motorized vehicles. So is an e-bike a motorized vehicle? So you kind of get into these debates and things like that. So I think it should absolutely be part of the conversation so that we can land in the best place.
Sure. Yeah. And then I guess my last inquiry is in a different direction. So one of the things that has come up a lot and is really important for me is somehow finding ways to address the driver, right? Mm-hmm. There's only so many considerations that can be taken through the design of the infrastructure itself, and I think I forget what exactly what the statistic was that we had at the last meeting, but it was was about people slowing down and stopping in school zones. And it was hard to comprehend that people had reached this level of disregard, right? Where I was born in Florida and I learned how to drive here. And I feel like there has always been this shared regard for systems of organization that allows us all to move and be different and be comfortable with each other. Mm-hmm. And it does feel like that has eroded in our roadways. And it doesn't seem like there's a clear process there's certainly no precedent for what we do next, right? It's not like, oh, when this happens, you enact this protocol. And my takeaway is certainly that it's like there's some degree of programming that has to take place, right? And there has to be events or information or some combination. There's things that aren't being done right now that need to take place. But is there any efforts that your department has made in that regard that you feel like, oh, this was actually really productive for that, or this was actually terribly unproductive, like in either direction?
So I think, are you talking about like outreach and education and
just anything,
yeah.
right? Like anything that you've seen make an impact on, because I'll be frank, like I personally do not understand what drives someone to make that decision. Like when I get in the car, my phone has never been in my hands as long as I've been a driver, but that doesn't, that puts me in a position where I don't understand it, right? So I feel like anything that you can share that can help me understand something that would be effective for someone who is making that choice would be beneficial for me, and I think maybe beneficial for the other members of the commission.
Sure. So I'll just share a few things that are coming to mind as you share all of that. I don't believe that we can start young enough with our children, right? Getting into elementary, keeping it up in middle school, keeping it up in high school. Children watch their parents. They watch the adults that they're hanging around. So if I'm holding my phone while I'm driving, which I don't do, sometimes I'll pick it up at a stoplight, and my boys are 14 and 11, and they will, Mom, you're not supposed to have your phone. I'm like, I know, but I'm stopped. But you're right. Let me put it down. They're always watching. It's same thing with a seatbelt. Like, our car does not move unless seatbelts are on. And so if we can just reiterate that type of thing, because that kindergartner is going to be a bicyclist one day. They might already be one. Wearing your helmet, being a good bicycle rider. They're going to grow up to possibly drive a car one day and still be a bicyclist and still be a pedestrian, right? So again, just starting as early as we possibly can. We've actually started giving out short phone chargers. And the reason for that is, you get in your car, you plug that in. If it's a really long cord, you can hold it. But if it's short, you can't, right? And it's what I do. I get in the car and I immediately plug it in because I just want to make sure I'm as charged as possible. We have really, while we focus a lot on infrastructure, we are trying to get out into the public as much as possible. When our office started in 2001, we were doing maybe 6 events a year, and we're probably going to top 150 this year, right? So that's 3 times a week that we are at a school fitting bike helmets, at a fall festival, at anywhere that we can possibly go to talk to people. We're doing a lot of digital campaigns, like the geofencing on your phone. We just did a big move over campaign on gas pumps. It's a captive audience, right? So we're trying to do all of the things we possibly can. I know that Orange County has done that quite a bit. But again, going back to that getting to zero together, it's on all of us. I'll give 2 more examples. Up until April, I was a den leader in Cub Scouts. I'm not anymore because he moved up to Boy Scouts. But every PAC meeting, we talked about something safety related. 2 minutes of who wears their bike helmet? All right, if you wear your bike helmet every time, you get a sticker type thing, right? Who wears their seatbelt every time? Just talking about those things and reiterating them, that's where I had influence. And I'm sure everybody in this room has opportunities to influence. I also do the newsletter for my neighborhood. So every newsletter has a safety message. Sometimes it's related to what I'm seeing happening in the neighborhood, people not stopping for people in a crosswalk or passing the school bus or whatever it may be. Let's make it okay to talk about those things. You know, my son is 14, and next summer he's going to turn 15, and he is going to know how to act in that car and how his friends will act, you know? And that's, as parents, that's where I have influence as well. So hopefully some of that is helpful.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Something Mohammed kind of hinted at in his questions also. My understanding of this project and the infrastructure improvements that you installed were maybe somewhat unconventional for this, or went against conventional thinking for this type of road facility. Can you talk about what those were and why you decided to take this approach and do some things that were maybe a little unconventional?
Yeah. So kind of to go back to what something Mohammed said as well is we had support from the very top. You know, we want you to go to the table and figure out how to stop the fatalities here, right? And I think putting in the fencing was a big part of that. It's still a developmental standard, that fencing, so it's not one of our standards yet, but just because we have to use things a few times before it becomes like a true standard. I feel like that's probably the biggest impact on that project, is that fencing, and that UCF project put that same fencing in. I think Tallahassee had it before us, but other than that, like you could probably count on, you know, two hands how many times that fencing has been used, but it's very impactful. That's probably our first project with raised crosswalks. We've probably got them in 8 or 9 places around the district now. And, but this was the project that was like, hey, this is possible. Buses can get over it. Fire trucks can get over it. You're still getting through the corridor and your car's not getting banged up. And I think just putting all of those things together is really what made it impactful.
And Zach asked a question about like any public pushback. Yeah. My understanding of this corridor is talk about the land use. Is it mostly commercial, residential, and how did that impact? So
that it's mostly commercial, those first, you know, kind of that first block, but there's a lot of apartments and communities on either side. There's a school on one side, so there's actually one crossing that we knew most of the school children were going to be crossing through, so it's the raised intersection. The whole intersection is raised, and we've worked on the timing there to make sure, you know, if you've got a whole group of kids that's coming across like in the mornings and stuff. So it's a mix of all of that, but a lot of people walking and biking.
Okay. And I had a question about one of the things you mentioned as a safety improvement was street trees.
Yes.
Median, I assume median and along the sidewalk, or
in this corridor along the sidewalks wasn't possible, but down the median we have.
Can I ask you about the FDOT policy on the sidewalk trees? Something I have frequently asked questions about and pushed for are shade trees, because I'm a big believer in bike and pedestrian infrastructure. But if you're building infrastructure that is not shaded, that people are not going to use in the state of Florida for, you know, I don't know, 7-8 months of the year, you know, to me it's not necessarily a worthwhile investment, and frequently, you know, get the response that there's required maintenance. You have roots that grow into the sidewalk. Yeah. So can you talk of what FDOT the position is on, you know, use of trees to shade the sidewalk or a bike lane or things like that?
So probably a few years ago now, we've previously trees were aesthetics. So if a community wanted trees down the median, wherever they may be, if the community, if that local entity will maintain them, we'd be happy to put them in. We have landscape contracts that can do that. But since we've really focused on target zero, and we recognize that trees can be for speed management. The department has started maintaining a lot of those trees. It doesn't mean in every situation that will be the case, but I feel like we are much more open than we were, previously to that idea of it. But it's, putting in the right type of tree. There's a lot of different considerations, but again, that's part of that community collaboration. I'm a firm believer that if we don't talk about it, then we can't make a decision on it, right? So I think we all need to come to the table and talk through it, see what makes sense.
And you mentioned that identifying the next OBT corridor that FDOT wants to tackle. Have you identified one? Have you identified a few? Or are there some that you can just kind of say this?
We literally had a meeting yesterday at 3:00 about it, and I don't have all the answers quite yet. There's a lot of things that came up, but I'm hopeful that real soon we'll be able to. We've kind of identified kind of the top 5 that we think. I think State Road 50 was one of them. I don't remember exactly which segment. But right now we're going back to the table and kind of digging a little bit more, like what's really going on there. What are those bold things that we could do to potentially reduce those fatalities in that segment? Because segment 1 is probably going to be different than segment 2 is different than OBT, different treatments. So not quite ready for prime time on that. But,
okay. And there's thousands of people watching at home, so we don't want to spill the beans too early.
Sorry.
And one last question from me. We obviously talked a lot about how this improved the safety for pedestrians and cyclists, but have we seen a similar increase for drivers as well? Has this resulted in a safer OBT for drivers in addition to our most vulnerable users?
I believe so, yes. I had the slide that talked about the number of crashes. Those have been reduced. People are going slower, so they're, if there is an interaction, it's a lot less severe than it would have been before. I think we've had a motorcycle fatality, but don't recall any vehicle ones in the last 3 years.
So would you tend to agree that if you make the road safer for pedestrians and cyclists, that you make the road safer for everyone who uses it? Was that something you would agree with?
I would be comfortable saying that, yes.
All right. Any other questions from commission members? Okay, Ms. Boa, thank you so much. Fantastic work.
You.
I look forward to hearing that list about what's coming next to what's the next OBT from FDOT.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much. Okay, Commissioner, I gave you the chance. I warned you this was a talkative bunch, and I mean mostly me, but you knew that already. So we'll go to Commissioner, District 3 Commissioner Maya Uribe is here to speak to us here tonight. I know transportation is a big passion and priority of hers, so the floor is yours.
Yes, and I want to apologize. Well, unfortunately, we had a death in our district. We had 2 teenagers get into an altercation. We had a shooting right before I came, so it got delayed from Oak Ridge High School, unfortunately, and so I actually had to step away to get more details of what happened. But I want to thank some amazing constituents who are here, and I'm sure they spoke about something, a very high topic. Did you guys bring up the issue with the... I chose not to. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All righty, because I know. And I want to... Did Lorraine leave already? Oh, there she goes. She's amazing. I got to tell you, her passion for this work goes way beyond the OBT project. OBT is, I share that with Commissioner Scott, and I want to tell you, unfortunately, we did have a death about 4 months ago, a bicyclist, and it was actually a driver who wasn't familiar with that area, and he tried to flee, and they later caught him. But when we look at, when I did a ride-along with the Sheriff's Office, and my ride-along involved the death of a pedestrian, that's how severe this used to be prior to what has happened. But yes, as Eric says, thanks for having me here. Thanks for being in District 3. Are lovely. I actually went to the wrong center, so it was nice to see you guys that weren't there because I wondered nobody must have come. It was so bad. But transportation is really important. I actually think it's probably the most, to me, one of the top priorities of Orange County. I have the pleasure of serving in many roles in transportation, not only on Metro Plan Orlando for Orange County, but I'm also on the executive committee for the disadvantaged. I also chair all 27 MPOs across the state of Florida, and just yesterday wrapped up my 18-month commitment to the state of Florida for the FTP Transportation Steering Committee, which essentially we put forth the future of transportation for the entire state of Florida through 2055. which I'm so excited includes space and drone travel and tracks and roads and trains and everything else, and airports and ports and everything that makes Florida movable. But also, I have the pleasure of working very closely with Secretary Perdue. I was just with him last week where we are discussing issues that are going on right here in Central Florida, because honestly, we need to have DOT at the table. We function, if all of you all know, and anybody in this room, federal money comes through the state, and I say MPOs are your home rule when it comes to transportation. We know as a region what's going on. We know what needs to be prioritized. And I also want to thank Lorraine, because we had a dire situation on Hoffner and Reddit Road where we were having a yard that had been driven through a home 15 times in 1 year. And under the Vision Zero and the safety and just reallocating funding, we were priority number 12 on Metro Plan Orlando. And with the help of DOT and Lorraine, we have a light there, and it's up early, and before it was even due. They told me December. Don't get excited, but it's already there. So this is huge. This is partnerships, and I want to appreciate all you do. I want to extend an extra appreciation to Mohammed, who really has brought his expertise, not only professionally, but his passion for transportation and knowing we need it forward. Zach, you guys are in different spectrums of what transportation looks like to you, but the reality is you're the voice of Orange County. You are part of what this community is looking at, what this community is hopefully being heard about. I do want to echo on the pedestrian crossing, and I'm going to do a shameless plug, and I know you have reservations, you have limitations on this. I never like to put corporate, state people on the spot. But one of those factors where you have a crossing is an elementary school. And it is right off of I-4. So as soon as you come off I-4, the first crossing is an elementary school that is pre-K to 5th grade on the east side of OBT, where you have a huge demographic of people who live on the west side of OBT. And as someone who has to take OBT every day, it is very frightening to see these little children that you barely can see with their backpacks, their Elsa and Anna and Sonic and Mario backpacks, trying to get across this major 7-lane road. As a mom, I always, I actually beat my horn at drivers who aren't necessarily paying attention, because we never want to see a distraction be such an incredible fatality. But I will say I have seen more parents walking their children to school, which is also, to me, you're teaching it. It's not only you're showing it, you're saying it, but you're teaching it. But I also worry, and I don't know how we'll do this, is that I-4 off-ramp, because you're coming 50, 60, 70 miles an hour onto a road that's 30. Immediately, you get off, and it immediately goes to 30 miles an hour, and within 50 feet, you have your first crosswalk, which children frequent the most. And I worry about the big trucks, the big semi trucks. I worry about that freight load, because there's no way when you're coming around that curve off of exit OBT that you are even mentally prepared to make an aggressive stop and halt. So I know there's a lot of work going on. We have advocates here from our community who are always fighting for that. But let's go back to transportation. It's the number one thing. We can have the best jobs, the best schools, the best places to live. But if we can't move people, we can't get there. And while I think we need to look forward at different options of transportation, we can't abandon our infrastructure, because at the end of the day, we have to not only teach people, but we have to adapt and become more infill built to be able to support being able to move people. And I really look forward to looking at transportation when it comes to public transit just being a lot more focused. I just came back from a conference in Providence, Rhode Island, where I was talking with folks from California and from Boston and from all across the nation, where they're being much more purposeful on public transit, so that, one, we're not wasting taxpayer dollars on empty buses, and we're actually working with employers to actually make routes that are employment based and that are driven. And I got to tell you, COVID's gone and ride sharing's back. It is the latest thing nationally that's happening, ride sharing and van sharing. Even in Washington state, it's a mandate where employers are actually investing into transportation, and we've got to look at every avenue. But with all in all, thank you guys for being here. I could keep talking because I'm one of those, an elected official, and that's what we do. But I just want to say thank you, and just know that we hear you and we're proud of you, and we thank you for taking this step forward. when we were looking at the penny tax 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I had advocated for a board that could be different from just politicians and staff so that people could be heard in this process. And I think you're just the first example of what that means coming forward. So thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes.
Questions from members of the board? I have one question. You mentioned that conference you just came back from about learning about different transit systems in other parts of the country. What do you, in terms of links, did you have any takeaways of what you think maybe links should be doing differently?
Well, I just kind of gave an example. I have been asking for ridership studies. We really need to know who's on the bus and when they're on the bus. We just went through a budget hearing, and because of what Seminole County's done, clearly Seminole County did the data work, and they realized it wasn't worthy keeping all the routes, and they cut them in half. Unfortunately, us as Orange County taxpayers are carrying that burden financially. I have an issue with that because we just had to adjust our budget to bring on more debt to us because we work as a region. And I think we need to look a lot more in depth. I know for a fact I've seen buses ride empty. I'm not saying we don't need buses. We just need to be smarter about how these routes are done. And I really think we need to start putting an emphasis on employment-based. I think there's sort of some opportunity with the Sunshine Corridor because between the Airport 1, we have a parking issue. We don't have enough parking, but between the airport and the I-Drive corridor, you're essentially employing 130,000 residents of Orange County. Those are what I call direct employment to home-based routes, one way or another. And I think we have to be smarter because money doesn't last forever. And you can't just keep throwing money without an expectation or a rate of return.
All right. And you mentioned the penny tax, and I know that's something that the Board of County Commission is talking about for 2026. A transportation sales tax or an infrastructure tax, something we spent a lot of time talking as a commission. Just putting you on the spot a little bit, what are your thoughts about either a transportation sales tax or an infrastructure tax for 2026?
I'm not prepared to make any decision, honestly.
Just thoughts. Do you have any thoughts? I guess because we're trying to decide as a commission here how we even feel about it. I don't think we've actually gotten to that point yet. So I'm not saying pro or con, but just overall thoughts.
One, I don't like just putting everything into one bucket, and I've been very open about that, just what I'm telling you now about links. I just think that I think it's a horrible year to do it on an off-presidential year because it's when you least have the amount of voters, and statistically you can't. And I honestly believe if you don't include infrastructure to support the development of transportation, we're feeding one part of the scale and leaving the other one empty. And they have to work together. We've seen this in Nashville. We've seen this in Columbus, Ohio. We've seen this in Clay County. We've seen this in Manatee County. But we're not seeing it yet in Orange County. And until we have a real dialogue about infrastructure that goes along with transportation, which, by the way, is a missing component, and I've always said in our comp plan, our new Vision 2050, it all goes together. You cannot leave one portion of what government is expected to do for the people out and then think that everything's going to function correctly.
Okay. Any other questions from commission members? Oh, sorry, are you on there?
Yeah.
Sorry about it. I didn't see you hit your button. Go ahead.
No worries. I don't know that it's much of a question, but I do want to thank Commissioner Uribe. I appreciate the appointment here and being able to serve on this commission and lend my voice to the important conversation that's happening. It's obviously transportation is a topic that is near and dear to not just the practitioners, but we're all out on the sidewalks, on the roads, on the bikes. It is also what drives our community and our economy. I don't mean to use the pun there, but our economy is really built on being able to safely and efficiently move people around. Your leadership in this arena has been and has not gone unnoticed from our community. As we continue to go forward, whether we have the tax conversations or we have the just what does our community look like, this issue is it's not a one size fits all issue. It is all things need to be possible, And funding is not a problem for Orange County alone. Funding is a problem for every city, every state, every country that deals with transportation. And all of us have traveled all over the world, or some of us have traveled all over the world and have seen, or all over the country, and have seen the different examples. I have every confidence that the citizens of Orange County will figure this out. We will continue to build on the quality of life that we've brought to ourselves in a meaningful way. We're seeing examples of how thinking outside of how we've done it in the past and moving things in a different direction can really, I think our charge here as a commission is to maximize and optimize the way we make these decisions. So thinking a little bit differently, whether it's drone travel or space travel, I look forward to seeing those things when I'm retired. But
me too.
but as we look at things, if we drop the bumpers, the lane bumpers that have always kept us in this direction of thinking, whether it's large buses or micro mobility or skateboards that move us around. All of these tools are there to, again, the ultimate goal is to move us to where we need to be and improve our lives. Yep. I guess what I'm trying to say is, in support of what Commissioner you were saying, is it isn't everything approach, and the more we can do with the resources we have, the more likely we are to get more resources to do more.
Yes. So
the steps going forward have to be to maximize what we have before we go for more, and I'm excited to see that happen. I know we'll make it. We have a very engaged citizenry, and
Mohammed is right to that point. Many people don't know. Rain knows probably because of my work with DOT, but there's been a bill. This would have been the third year, 2 years in a row, with a representative out of Sarasota, who 2 years ago tried to eliminate the MPOs. And again, that's kind of like your home rule when it comes to transportation. With the work of some of our legislators in Tallahassee, I have to give kudos to Senator Broder. They helped us get the language out in the last day of session. That was 2 years ago. Last year, that same rep put the language in again to eliminate us as a step. And again, this is again how we get funding all the way down. And with the work of Secretary Perdue and I was in Tallahassee 4 different occasions lobbying this representative from Sarasota County. And again, we got the language out, but she charged me with some very high tasks to do. And I met with her 3 weeks ago, and now she doesn't intend to even put the language in this year. Those are huge steps for us as a region, and taking politics aside, these are issues that are important to everybody. Red, blue, purple, green, not even registered. These are how we move forward, and we need to protect, because these are relationships we have with DOT. While we have great efforts going on locally, it all comes from the top and it comes down to the bottom. So he's absolutely right that we just all are working towards the same goal. And Zach.
Thank you for making the time to come and speak with us.
Always. By the way, you gave my son his first skateboard. And only skateboard, let's just say, okay? Not only first, only skateboard.
I thought it was maybe fortuitous that you mentioned ride sharing and van sharing, because that was something that came up over the course of some of our working agendas where, maybe it's based on my background or just my way of thinking, but one of the things that I've been pushing is like, how can we have our own ride sharing app? If we're having issues with existing ride sharing companies and the way that they operate on our roads or the ways that they interact with our vital businesses, and we don't have the means to control those rideshare apps, it leaves us with our hands tied. And
I don't think so, because I think that's where we can get employers involved.
Sure.
They do it in other states very successfully, where actually the employers are part of the investment into the transportation. Matter of fact, in the state of in Washington, it's a mandate.
So yeah, I think so. I'm right. I'm saying ride sharing. I'm talking about like ride hailing, like technology companies that provide a ride sharing service that people utilize to get places. And one of the things that we looked at was an app that's used by transportation agencies across the country called Agile Mile, that allows municipalities, counties, state organizations to provide a service that allows citizens to find each other and share rides and carpool and vanpool. And I was just wondering if that was anything that you had, if in your conversations with these other organizations, if you've encountered any kind of unique technology solutions or people pushing
what
for
you're
ways
saying
to.
Is what we're hearing. It's evolving. I mean, you're obviously going to get it in cities that are much more dense. And we're hearing things like that in Seattle. We're hearing things like that in Boston, which I think there's a lot of potential. We're quite widespread still, even though we don't feel we are, but we really are when you look at real urban cities. And it's exciting. And that's one of the things when we go to these conferences where we get to learn, and we get to learn from others, especially learning how others are getting. I'll tell you, like in Columbus, Ohio, with their penny tax increase, they're actually at 8% now. So they're actually like incredibly high, but they passed it overwhelmingly because they sold it to the public. It was a buy-in of partnership. And I think that's what's critically important. And I got to tell you, not only you all being educated on this, but elected officials really being educated on transportation. I am getting up at 5 a.m. and driving to Palm Beach to kick off a session with 19 elected officials from across the state of Florida to teach them how TIPs and UPWPs, Brett's language and Brian's language in the back, which I never knew what that was. If you guys know, you know what I mean? Like how funding gets for you to get a light, and how you get a road, and how you widen a road, and how you repave a road, and how you put funding aside for different projects. Your elected officials need to know what they're voting on and what that means and how the money finds its way to your community. And a work plan. Many people don't realize that. If you don't have a work plan when it comes to transportation in your region, we can talk about a light on the street, but if it's not on the work plan, it's just a dream. And
Yeah.
so one part of my duties as a statewide, as I travel the state, I'll be in Miami-Dade at the end of the month with the Miami-Dade delegation, teaching this to my colleagues at different levels of government.
And I think one of the things we found is that there's a need not just for the elected official, but for the citizen also, right? To have some mechanism to understand these things, because we've come to a point where, whether it's the product of technology or just changes in society, people who can identify a problem expect to be able to identify a solution. And often in the case of transportation, it leads us into these very complicated territories where it's not that a solution isn't in place, but it's that solution is part of a 10-year plan. And for a citizen to get a hold of that information, is not even easy. So
And Zach,
thanks
and I'll remind you, a citizen is where you end up like someone like me. I was just a citizen who cared about my community and ran. And so the more tools and power you have, the better we all are.
Yeah.
So thank you guys.
And thank you.
Appreciate it. Oh, yes.
I was just going to say, one of the things that is important is the aspect of thinking out of the box or not being afraid to ask a question. I learned a long time ago the only dumb question is one that's not asked. Mm-hmm. And just an example of, again, kind of teeing off what you talked about is I was part of a company that we acquired 6 nursing homes in Milwaukee. Milwaukee, a lot of people use mass transit. Well, we had high turnover with the acquisitions. We did our homework. We went to the transit authority and we said, hey, we got a problem. We've got about 20 staff that come from this area. Can you modify your bus schedule? They modified it. In other occasions, we modified our work schedule to accommodate, because people were being discharged because they were coming to work 15 minutes late because of the bus schedule. So working together and tying together those things are so important, whether it's an employer, whether it's an individual. You got to ask questions. You got to be not afraid to ask, and appreciate everything that you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I just met with a warehouse over near the airport off of Tradeport. Their employees come in between 7:30 and 8:30, and they all go home between 3:30 and 4:45. But no one, and if you're going home, it's either you're sick or you came really late, is an exception, not the norm. And you're exactly right. And it's great when that employer can say, can we help to make this route happen so that our employees can get to work? So it's perfect, and you're right. And that's what I'm hoping the future for us looks like. Part of it. It's just one little part. But it's all about being smart. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Appreciate the
you coming out
dialogue.
tonight.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Okay. So the next part of our agenda, guys, I see kickoff just floating farther and farther away for us. I really had hopes for us tonight. You know, I take the majority of the blame. I can't stop talking. But we are going to hear, so we are in District 3, as we keep mentioning. We thought was important. I believe, Mohammed, I believe this was your idea, which was a great idea, that when we go and visit the districts, that it's a good idea to let the members of the public who reside in this district know what's coming up for them. They all have their individual transportation challenges. What does the county actually have in its current plans to try to make your transportation lives a little bit smoother? So we are going to hear from our county staff on the projects that are occurring in District 3, and we'll do this in I think the plan is to do this in every single district in which we hold a meeting. So Lauren Torres, our liaison with the Public Works Department, is going to do a presentation on what's upcoming in District 3.
Thank you, Chair Grimmer. Good evening, everyone. So we're just going to do a quick overview of the projects in District 3 for fiscal year 25. So we're going to discuss just an overall overview. We'll talk about our transportation studies, roadway projects, sidewalk projects, ADA improvements, traffic signal and intersection improvements, stormwater improvements, and roadway lighting. All these projects have either been completed or are in the process in fiscal year 25, which just ended for the county. This is a map of District 3. Some of it is cut off by the airport because it doesn't have any projects, but this is just kind of a focus on where the projects are taking place within District 3. There's a small table to the side, which you don't see that well, which is why I'm going to go over it, but it just discusses what the projects were and where they were located. So the first is our transportation study for Ekanlakahatchee Trail. I pronounced that correctly, yay. So this is a study from Curry Ford Road to Lake Underhill Road. It's a study for improvements including additional travel lanes and pedestrian and bicycle upgrades. The study has just started and is expected to complete in the spring of 2027. Now we'll briefly discuss roadway projects. Members, you've seen this before, but of course our audience here in District 3 has not. So this is the roadway project on Lake Underhill Road from Econ Trail to Rouse Road. The design is 45% complete. It includes widening from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. It is also going to feature bicycle lanes, sidewalks, lighting, and median landscaping. Taft Violin Road. This is going to be broken up into 2 segments. Segment 1 is west of OBT to Bachman Road. It is currently in 60% design and will consist of widening the existing 2-lane roadway to a 4-lane divided roadway west of the bridge crossing with Florida's Turnpike to the Orange Blossom Trail intersection. This project will be a joint project with the Florida Turnpike Authority, with the Turnpike constructing the project on behalf of the county in fiscal year 26-27. Segment 2 from Bachman Road to Orange Avenue the design is about 90% complete. The project will consist of widening the existing 2-lane rural roadway to a 5-lane undivided roadway east of the Florida Turnpike Bridge crossing to Orange Avenue. Econ Trail, this is the road that's currently under construction. It is 67% complete. It is south of Lake Underhill Road to north of State Road 408. The project includes widening from 2 to 4 lanes, a new 2-lane bridge over State Road 408, sidewalks, bicycle lanes, roadway lighting, and median landscaping. Now we'll discuss sidewalk projects. Now these were funded with a combination of both capital improvement program funds as well as funding from our accelerated transportation safety program. So the sidewalks that were installed this year were Hidalgo Drive from Lake Margaret Drive to Veracruz Lane, Tampico Drive from Goldenrod Road to Fort Shea Avenue, Veracruz Lane from Hidalgo Drive to Tampico Drive, Oleander Drive from Cimarron Boulevard to Amber Road, and Lake Underhill from Cosmos Drive to South Goldenrod Road. I'll go over some ADA improvements. I would like to explain ADA improvements can include ramps with detectable warning surfaces, but it could also include some additional sidewalk in order to make the sloping correct to meet ADA requirements. These improvements can be at intersections, they can be entire corridors, and even an entire community. So some of these are labeled, as you can see, these are projects. So if you're interested about the exact location, if you go back to slide number 3, you'll be able to see exactly where these projects took place. The first one was the East Orlando Phase 2 project, Stonebridge, upgrades of ramps around Sally Ride Elementary School, Little River Elementary School, West Taft Island Road East at OBT, Chickasaw Trail, and Dean Road. Now for our traffic signal and intersection improvements. We had 3 this fiscal year. Lake Underhill Road and Cosmos Drive. Construction is actually at 95%. It should be operating very soon. Consulate Drive and Delegates Drive, as well as West Half Island and Road and General Drive are currently in design. Sometimes we get these questions about traffic signals, and traffic signals usually take about a year to just design and anywhere from 18 to 24 months to actually install. We'll quickly go over some stormwater improvements in the area. So Lake Mary Canal and Lake Jessamine Canal, this project involves developing a design, preparing construction documents, and securing permits for improvements to the Lake Mary Canal outfall, along with conducting a topographic survey, preparing legal sketches and easement descriptions, and performing geotechnical testing. Canal E14, that's near the Sun Vista Way, included some bank stabilization and restoration to the channel due to damage caused by Hurricane Ian. And for our roadway lighting projects, Primrose Drive from Vine Street to Curry Ford Road, Hoffner Avenue from LaBelle to South Orange Avenue, and 4th Street from Boggy Creek Road to South Orange Avenue. The first 2 have been completed. 4th Street is in progress. In summary, Public Works has had 25 projects in District 3 for fiscal year 25. Most are completed while some are still underway. These efforts represent over $21 million invested directly into the community. Have any questions?
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, people always ask, where are my tax dollars going? And I think this is great to show that your tax dollars are being used, and there's quite a bit going on here in District 3 to try to make your lives a little bit safer, smoother, and easier in your transportation. So that's a lot of great information. One question I had, that the transportation study that we mentioned, you said it was expected to be completed in 2027. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine that's probably in the early stages then.
Very early stages.
Okay, very early stages. Mm-hmm. And do we know, I think you mentioned this, but do you know why that corridor, what we're trying to accomplish? What are the issues in that corridor that led to that study? Do you have any, I know it's early, but like, why are we studying that? What are we trying to accomplish?
Overall, I think that all the studies that we are doing is based on the need for the area. So there is, and I think we had talked about this, we will be presenting kind of like a prioritization on how projects are prioritized. So we'll give you a little bit of information on how that's done. But I do want to make sure that I mention that the things that we will be looking at, because we'll get a little bit into that when I go into the Vision Zero information. We are making sure that we are focusing on all modes of transportation, right? So we are making sure that, and we're, maybe the shared use paths make more sense than a buffered bike lane, mid-block crossings, anything that can provide better mobility for all users is all the things that we'll be looking at in these studies.
Okay. And in our last meeting, we heard a lot about, some people may not know, there's a pilot program coming to Orange County about installing speed cameras in school zones to make sure it's, again, slowing down those cars, especially in our school zones, are on our most vulnerable little users who are walking, trying to get the bike to school. Are there any schools in District 3 that were selected for that pilot program?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. Do you have
Okay. Brett, I'll give you a minute and a half, all right? Oh, there's 2. Okay, so... We did hear a presentation. Maybe Brett can, when he finds that information, he can maybe answer that question for you as well. But while Brett is doing that research, does anyone have any other questions on the commission for Lauren?
I do have.
Go ahead.
Okay. Did I do it right?
You're good.
There you go.
You're good.
So quick question, Lauren, and thanks for the presentation. It's great to hear 21 million in improvements here in the district. Again, dollars that will continue to help improve quality of life and save lives, really, as we heard from Lorraine earlier. Quick question on the lighting, sidewalk, and ADA improvements. You mentioned you're going to go through how you prioritize. I would imagine that's the larger project. But on what is the primary driver to select this area or that area for ADA, lighting, or sidewalk improvements? Is it 311 calls? Is it safe? What drives?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's the community. So when the community reaches out through 311 and lets us know that they are having an issue or having a problem, that's how things get done. I'll tell you, in my own community, we have a sidewalk that that a lot of people like to use, and it was just too dark. And we did have lighting, but the lighting was too dark. So what I did was you can go online or you can call whoever is your service provider, either OUC or Duke Energy. And I didn't mention anything about who I worked for. And within 3 months, they had that so well lit that you can see, miles down. So I would suggest that if there are any concerns or safety concerns or questions that you have, 311 is your best tool to use to kind of say, hey, I'm having an issue. There's only so many of us at the county, so we're not going to know every issue that you're having. So that's how you get those ADA upgrades. That's how you get those traffic signals. That's how you get those sidewalks.
Thank you.
Okay, Brett, what did you find out for us?
The two in District 3 are 3 Points Elementary and Sally Ride Elementary.
Okay.
Was there other questions?
Oh, hit the button there, Brett.
I watched everyone all night push the button, but I refused to do it. Sorry, it is 3 Points Elementary School and Sally Ride Elementary School.
Okay.
The other question was, how much do they cost?
How much do they cost for each camera?
Well, I don't know how many cameras you guys are going to provide, but...
So we'll provide a camera in each direction on each school zone. So these schools, I believe, were only doing one school zone. There was one, I think it was in District 6, that had 2 different roads. But basically, you'll put them in, so there'll be 2 cameras at each of those elementary schools. We will be putting together an RFP for the vendor, and then we'll get a price from them. So I don't really have an estimate of the prices. We are going to go after one where we purchase the cameras. Some of the options are that the vendor gets a certain percentage of the proceeds. We do not like that model. We purchase the cameras and get the proceeds. But from the amount of violations that we've done based on our studies, we're going to get a lot more revenue in violations than the cost of the cameras, just because the amount of speeding we're seeing now in those school zones.
Well, we hope that's a diminishing return over time, right?
That even assumes like a 70 or 80% reduction after. I think Gerald did a good job. I think he talked about that, but the guesstimates are about 70 to 80% reduction when you put the cameras in. So even assuming that, the revenues will still be significantly more than to cover the cost.
What was the criteria for choosing those schools?
We did look at schools primarily on the highest volume roadways. The ones that were, we have a lot more lists than these 2 schools, but it was primarily, we only really have school zones in elementary and middle. Most high schools do not have school zones. Some schools have traffic signals at the entrances, which make it a little more difficult to implement these types. So it's basically school zones on the highest volume roads. We picked some that had 4-lane roads, some that had higher volume 2-lane roads. So we're looking at the ones, and then when we went and collected the data, we did pare it down a little bit, but we looked at the ones that had the most violations over the speed limit. And the cameras by state statutes only work, I think Gerald said that, if you have greater than 10 miles an hour or more. So we looked at those that had the people, I think Gerald was talking about some that had quite a bit more than 10 miles and over. So that's kind of how we did it. If we looked at school zones that only had a few people speeding, that was not something, obviously, that was worth the investment in the cameras.
Okay. Thank you, Brett. Appreciate that information. So like Lauren mentioned, there is a second small part to the presentation that my late question led to, but Lauren, because I thought it was another important topic. We talked a lot about safety here tonight, and we're going to hear about Vision Zero here in District 3, so along those safety lines.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great. So we'll talk a little bit about the high injury network roads in District 3. Just for the members to know, Humberto Casillero, who's the division manager for our traffic engineering department, will be coming to the next meeting to kind of get a little bit more in detail, but I kind of just wanted to give actually it was Chair Grimmer that suggested it, just at least a brief overview of the high injury network and some of the things about our Vision Zero action plan, since we were in District 3 today. So Orange County's Vision Zero action plan identified the high injury network corridors within the county to identify the most dangerous corridors for all road users. In District 3, there are 37 high injury network segments accounting for over 14,000 crashes and 680 people that are killed or seriously injured on the roadways, with the most dangerous corridors located on Goldenrod Road, Orange Avenue, Oak Ridge Road, and Lake Underhill Road. So for the Goldenrod Road segment, there were a total of 1,386 total crashes, with 13 fatalities and 70 serious injuries. So as part of that, some of the proposed countermeasures that we are looking into include installing leading pedestrian intervals. These kinds of intervals give pedestrians a few more seconds to start crossing the crosswalk before vehicles start. Prohibiting turns when pedestrian signals are activated, under intersections and roadways, upgrading to roundabouts or signalized intersections at unsignalized intersections, for pedestrian and bicycle facilities, installing more crosswalks, also evaluating the feasibility of installing shared use paths. Speed management, I will say speed and distracted driving are the #1 cause for fatalities on our roadways across the country. Also other engineering strategies as well, lighting upgrades, and then also just updating some worn pavement markings. This is also happens, Goldenrod Road also happens to be a state road, so we are working with FDOT on this particular project. The estimated cost for these improvements are $31 million. For Orange Avenue, we have 275 total crashes with 0 fatalities and 16 serious injuries. I would like to make a comment about that. Just because the fatalities might be less or might be 0 does not mean that it's not a serious situation. I say that because serious injuries include situations where people can never live the same way they did before. They may not be able to work. They may not be able to care for themselves. And when you have a primary breadwinner of a family who's affected by a serious injury that can no longer work, that can affect families for generations, right? So I just wanted to bring that up. Just because of the 0 does not mean that these serious injuries are not important. So some of the proposed safety countermeasures include reviewing signal timing to improve traffic progression and safety for all. Something also that's really interesting is implementing speed-sensitive on rest during nighttime periods. So this is basically, it's called rest in red, where the signals are able to detect when cars are speeding, so they'll turn red or they'll stay red for longer to slow people down. Oh. Pedestrian and bicycle facilities, again, installing high emphasis mid-block crosswalks, speed management as part of all of these, and also, roadway lining and other speed management or other engineering strategies. The estimated cost for these improvements are $9 million. Next road is Oak Ridge Road with 309 total crashes. Again, I'm sorry, I don't think I mentioned that at the beginning. The studies were done from 2022, I believe, 2018 to 2022. So these studies are only for, this data is only for 4 years. So there was a total of 309 crashes with 5 fatalities and 19 serious injuries. For Oak Ridge Road, some of the proposed safety countermeasures include, again, leading pedestrian intervals, also tightening up your turning radii. So, the larger the corners are when you're turning your vehicle, the faster vehicles tend to go. So when you can tighten those up a little bit, that slows people down. That also gives them extra time to see maybe a pedestrian in the crosswalk. Pedestrian and bicycle facilities, adding, installing marked crosswalks at all side streets and major driveways. Again, speed management. I think Lorraine from the FDOT talked about target speed. lighting improvements, lighting upgrades along the segment, and also updating signage and striping. So the estimated cost for these improvements are $33 million. Lake Underhill Road, we've had over 1,000 total crashes with the same period, with 5 fatalities and 26 serious injuries. So the proposed improvements in this corridor include, again, leading pedestrian intervals, upgrading to audible push buttons and pedestrian crossing signals. So that's really helpful for folks that maybe have trouble hearing. Being able to hear the audible pedestrian push button is helpful. Also, reducing that curb radius I talked about earlier for intersection and roadway improvements, installing marked crosswalks, speed management, also in reducing lane widths. So one of the projects that we have in the county is our resurfacing program. And one of the things that we are doing now with all the roads that we are resurfacing is we're reducing lane widths to 11 feet. That may not seem like a lot, but if you have been driving, I'm sure all of us, those of us that drive, if you're driving on a roadway where they have some sort of like Jersey barrier right next to you, for some reason you tend to kind of slow down a little bit just because you have that visual, like it seems like the lane might be less in width, even though it's not. This kind of does the same thing because you're just a little bit closer to the car next to you, so you tend to slow down just a little bit. And that really helps with speed management. Also, lighting upgrades around the segments and upgrading of signage and striping. And that's estimated cost for those improvements are about $18 million. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, and as Lauren mentioned, we as a commission will be receiving a more full presentation on Vision Zero at our next meeting, but I did think it was important for the residents to hear about our Vision Zero plan. And you guys live this every day, right? You probably know where your dangerous roads are, but this lets you know that the county also has identified through its Vision Zero process where your most dangerous roads are, and they have ideas on how to fix them. I wanted to make sure that you guys as residents had that information, that the county is looking at this. But also you saw some of the prices that associated with these improvements. Like these things cost money. And as a commission, I know I think I can speak for the commission, that we have really emphasized that we would like to prioritize safety more. I think most people do. But we can only do that, as a community. We're only one, 7 of us members up here. If we want to change about how we do things in Orange County, what kind of investments we make on our transportation, do we want to value safety? We have to communicate that both to our elected officials, but also to our county staff, that's what this community and us residents, want to see. So I think it was important for you guys to have that information that we've been receiving ever since this commission began. But questions from the commission on the Vision Zero? Okay. Lauren, thank you so much for the addition. Go ahead.
I have
I'm sorry.
a quick question. Again, I know we're going to go through a more full presentation on this, but just for context, we saw the District 3 projects totaling $21 million. If I total just these 4 corridors, we're at $91 million. So again, notwithstanding everything we've been talking about, funding continues to be a challenge. There are a lot of priorities. There are a lot of competing needs here. Is the county allocating, as we continue to go forward, are we continuing to allocate Vision Zero specific funding, or do we continue to do these projects, as part of our CIP?
So as you saw when we presented the budget, we do have a budget for Vision Zero. I believe it was $2 million for this year, but it's to cover the whole county, right? So that's seeing the prices of these projects, that's not a lot. But we have applied for the Safe Streets for All grant through the Federal Highway. We're still kind of waiting to hear back from them for $25 million. So we are looking at options, looking at grant opportunities, and doing the best that we can with what we have. But you are correct. We do not have the money to cover all these roads. Remember, this is just District 3. So for the whole county, there's tens of millions of dollars that we would need to invest in order to in order to install all these improvements that were identified by this Vision Zero study.
Yeah, appreciate that, Laura. And back to doing more with less and being able to prove that out. Again, as we continue to do our work and staff continues to do their work, I think you guys do an outstanding job of getting these projects programmed. It's probably a good strategy to continue to look at the low-hanging fruit, the low-cost, high-return improvements that are happening in the interim. I know Umberto was talking about the other day, traffic engineering is going out and installing devices that are temporary in nature just to go ahead and get out in the field and get these improvements out. Those are the types of things that will continue to show the community, the public, that if we make these investments, there is a real tangible return to their experience and their safety. So I look forward to us continuing to prioritize in our budgets, in our decision making, these types of improvements, even incremental in nature, that will help us get that snowball effect of buy-in and just desire for implementation.
And I'll also say that each division within Public Works, in their own division, as part of their own budget, states are already implementing some of these Vision Zero programs. For instance, I talked about the resurfacing list. So we are looking at ways that we can implement, low-cost hanging fruit options like pavement markings every time we go in and resurface.
Yes, Lauren, thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to emphasize a couple things of the opportunity. Your word is so important. I talked to a senator once about a majority of my constituents said, representing 70,000 people, he had 3 phone calls. Your word and your questions are important. Whether it's to an agency, a department, whether it's 311, you need to bring it up. Also, a couple people asked me about, geez, it seems like there's a lot of money going into reducing the grade by 2 or 3% for handicap. Well, I fortunately only 6 times in my life was in a wheelchair, and that was briefly in the hospital for maybe a day or two. But I also was in my history work background was in healthcare for over 40 years, and getting in a wheelchair and going up a grade, 1 or 2 or 3 degrees difference is a big difference for many people being able to accomplish it. So it is an expense in making that adjustment, but for the mobility of those people that are unfortunately tied to a wheelchair, it's very important.
Thank you, Rob. Any other questions from commission members on Division Zero? Okay, Lauren, thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to proceed to the last part of our agenda, guys. We are almost there. Thank you, guys. You guys have stuck it out there. I appreciate it. Keeps me going too, which you may not actually want at this point, but we'll finish up here. Member comments. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to touch on in the member comments section, we've had work sessions as a commission on our budget. We have a budget that the Board of County Commissioners has so graciously provided to help us do our work, and we have had discussions about what we want to use that budget on. And I want to talk about a couple items that we have identified as a commission and some potential ideas. But I want to see if there's a consensus around pursuing those ideas before we send Lauren down the rabbit hole to get us a firm proposal of what we should do with the money. So how I envision how we spend the money and how we choose to spend the money, it's not really spelled out in the charter, is that staff will bring us kind of eventually like a firm proposal and presentation on exactly what we want to spend the money on, where it's going to be used, what's going to be done, what's going to cost, and then we take a vote as a commission on if that's what if we want to spend that money to do that. But before we get there, before we send Lauren to do all that work with the proposal, 2 things I want to talk about. One is we heard from Bike Walk Central Florida. It was a presentation earlier we had this year. Bike Walk Central Florida is a nonprofit that does exactly what you think of from the name. It's all about bike and pedestrian safety. And Mr. Mueller, when he was here earlier, talked about micromobility safety. And there's a program that Bike Walk Central Florida puts on for local schools where they go in to a local school and they do a whole safety seminar. and teach them all about the rules of the road, how to use these new devices safely, or scooters or e-bikes, those kinds of things, to try to start that education, as Lorraine mentioned, starting them early. I know that's something that I think this commission has expressed an interest in, something me and Lauren talked about, is potentially identifying a school in each district where that seminar could be put on this year. But I did want to see it before we sent Lauren into, again, start gathering that information on the potential schools and costs and those kinds of things, which I think from her memory, the rough cost was like $8,000 to $12,000 per seminar. If there was consensus on the board, is that something we'd be interested in doing so she can start her research? So just thoughts from commission members on that idea.
I just had a question. The fiscal year, right? It begins October, right? Okay.
A whole 9 days ago, yeah.
I just want to make sure. So we're now technically dealing with 2026
Correct.
Fiscal year. Okay.
Yep. But any thoughts from commission members on that idea or consensus? Is that something we're interested in doing so she can start doing the research? Again, we're not committing to anything. It's more of, this is an idea that we like, and
yeah, it sounds like it makes sense to me. The only information that I feel like that I didn't have in order to make a final decision on where I stand is probably the information that's going to come out of
exactly. Yeah, it's just before we started her down that road, if we weren't not something the commission wanted to do, I didn't want her to start that work. But any other thoughts or opposition? Any thoughts or opposition?
No opposition. I think the aspect of communicating, getting the word out, educating people is the first stage of safety, and you need to look no further than I helped out with traffic management at a school the other day. 50% of the parents picking their kids up at elementary school were holding their phone driving on or off campus.
Exactly. So yeah, that education part, I know it's something that we're all very passionate about as members here. So Lauren, I think we have consensus to go ahead and take a look at that and come up with a concrete proposal for that idea. The second thing we talked about is we talked a lot about links, and we talked a lot about links bus stops and some of the things that they are missing at some bus stops. They may not have a shelter. They may not have even a bench or a trash can. So we talked about the idea of maybe investing some of TransMAC money and providing those, helping to provide some improvements for links to kind of fill some of those gaps for our transit users. So Lauren has had preliminary conversations with links about costs of different things. I think we talked about that a little bit earlier. But I think to maybe take it more to the next level and see if we want to try to identify specific locations and specific amenities that we may want to try to, invest TransMAC dollars in. I just want to, before she did that work, again, on getting that more defined project list or location list, get the thoughts of the commission members.
For the amenities, like outside of that physical shelter, because I know we discussed the cost is very significant. Are there other opportunities that are not as fiscally intensive?
Yeah, so the shelters themselves, which was the original idea, were quite expensive, over $100,000, right? So in my discussions with Links, the amenities for those shelters, and those amenities include the bench, trash can, things like that, those run more around $16,000, depending on the location. So as long as the members are fine, I can reach out to Links, get locations that have, so shelters are only placed when there's a certain number of users. So I will reach out to Links to see what locations they have for each district, and I can give you a proposal with those costs, and then you can make a decision.
To your point, Mr. Chairman, I think maybe we discard the actual physical shelter idea at this point, because I
mentioned that because it's part of the conversation. But I think I agree.
And look more at the amenities situation. So I appreciate it.
As good as those shelters are, that would take out a significant amount of our budget. You guys would be amazed how quick this money goes. It's wild. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, one of the things that I thought in this instance might be able to help our money go further, right, and perhaps even produce a better outcome. Is there a way that we could present these as, hey, TransMAC is going to fund half of it, and where's a business in town, near this bus stop, that wants to get involved, and then maybe we can work out, you get a year of advertising or 2 years of advertising, to where we're able to, instead of us coming and putting up all the money, because it's worth it, right, but maybe not worth it if we don't have enough money to go around and do it everywhere, right? And then this is allowing us to still get the result and also enlist help from the community. Maybe that makes it a lot more complicated and then extends the timeline too much. I don't know. It was just an initial thought I had on, okay, if our solution is that we want to get into the community and provide better bus amenities, is there a way for us to get there that is also going to enlist and engender more community support? Yeah.
Partnerships is interesting idea for sure. I think it's definitely something we should consider. Any other thoughts or go ahead.
You looked at me at the opposition, so I'm gonna.
I like to think I look equally down both sides of the dais
Just
here.
kidding. So I was actually going down that same thought process as Zach, but I was probably a little further to the spending. If we're going to go down the path of supporting links to provide shelters or to provide not shelters but amenities at stops, I'm certainly supportive of the idea. I don't think as a commission with our budget and our resources we should be spending on physical improvements to the shelters. I love where we're going with that, Zach. If there's a way for us to essentially work with links to establish a I don't know, call it a sponsorship program, call it whatever you want. I know they have advertising already. I know they do that. But maybe go a little further where it's corporate citizenship and sponsorship of these, almost like an Adopt a Road type of program, but for links, shelters, and stops. I think that's a very good use of our resources. But going out there and putting up trash cans or putting up benches or whatever the case may be, those things are more perishable than ripe bananas. They get destroyed very quickly, and then you have to replace them. And it's not this isn't something that I feel this commission, with our limited resources, should really delve into. But going out and doing an inventory, working with links to figure out what they have and what they don't have, and maybe working up a program to engage our corporate citizens and our citizens in general to adopt a bus stop, I think that you were on the right path there for me.
Okay, so maybe let's take a look at it. Let's be thinking creatively, right? That's what we always want to be doing, making those dollars go further. So yeah, I think we have consensus at least to pursue maybe like the inventory or list, but let's also be thinking about ways as a commission, as staff, which I know they always are, of being creative and helping those dollars go further, and maybe getting our business community involved, getting our other local organizations involved is a great way. Like Lorraine said in her presentation, like we all got to do this together, right? So that's a great idea. Okay, I think we have direction there. Okay, those are two things that. Right, go ahead.
Just to comment on that as well, is when we look at the aspect of links and ridership and so on and so forth, part of that I think maybe looking more at the aspect of education. If I knew that it takes me 40 minutes, 35 to 45 minutes to get to downtown Orlando from Apopka, if I knew I could do that in an hour and 15 and save $10 in parking, I would consider taking the bus. And I think if we can do some more education, or links could do more education to that. You look at their advertising, it's next to nothing. Is if they put dollars to it, it may make sense for people to make a change.
Okay, thank you, Rod. Patrick.
Yeah, I just had one question since we're discussing links.
Sure.
Were we going to review like potential costs for like a short-term route to like determine feasibility for the longer term as well, or like the next step, just initial costs potentially? Like I know we're discussing specific events targeting 2026,
right? Just
so we have an estimated dollar figure associated to that.
So I think where we are with that one is that we just need like an identification of events that we think would be gather significant enough population from one area going to a different area that would maybe warrant that kind of investment. So I think that's something we can continue. If you have ideas, any commission member has ideas, I think we can talk about that as a group, but also you can talk about it with Lauren. And then, so I think that's something that's still on our radar as maybe more of a longer term. But the focus on getting our dollars, committed for our 2026 budget, But yeah, I think that's something that's definitely still on the table that I'm interested in. Just first, you. I think the first step would be let's identify some events, and then we can start thinking about it. Any other? So open member comments. Any other comments? Jose, I would love to hear from you. You've been so quiet tonight.
Brian Sanders, I got 3 questions for you. This is regarding the email that I sent to Lauren shared with all of you. 3 questions. Yesterday at the Technical Advisory Commission meeting, Renzo Anastasio was mentioning the fact that there was a sticky situation with CSX and the transition to Sunrail. What he meant about that. Second question, Jim Gray, City Commissioner for District 1, City of Orlando, made the comment that he would like to transfer all the traffic light engineering software in Arcusy Road to the City of Orlando. And then the third question, a year from now, is it really Lynx taking over Sunrail as the operator? Just 3 questions, that's it.
Just 3 easy questions. So
hit your button.
Which one?
It's on now.
It's on now. Okay, great. So Renzo's comments at TAC meeting, he and I have not spoken about that subject. I do know that CSX and all the workings are very complicated. Let's hold that one if Brett knows that one. Was that the one?
1 and 2.
Oh, 1 and 2. The second one was it turning over all the signals on Arcusy?
Yeah, as Jim Gray mentioned that he would like to have everything turn over from Orange County to the City of Orlando for Arcusy Road.
Speaking for myself, I would like that also, and I do know that there are discussions going on about transferring that road over to the City of Orlando. There's a lot of development that loads that roadway up with traffic from the City of Orlando's developments, and it's very challenging getting through there. In the past, we have coordinated with the City of Orlando to tactically lay out the traffic signals. They're all in now, but there have been efforts in the past. And then the third question...
Sunrail taken over by Lynx a year from now?
Well...
is that a final deal?
No. I won't say it's final to my knowledge. Brett might know. But Lynx has always been the heir apparent. As we've moved through those conversations, there have been, once you start, making the sausage, it becomes apparent that there's issues that other regions have brought up to make that a challenge, and the legitimate issues that need to be worked through. Brett, do you want to add?
Sure. Yeah. The CSX has been a known issue for a while because when the DOT did Sunrail, they had to get a special legislative change for that insurance and liability. So that's been known and that's been a discussion. And it's part of this transition. Those conversations have happened. They're not easy, but that is an important part of who takes over Sunrail. So and how that's structured and what kind of liability that has for who is the operator. So that's a big part of the discussion. But there will be some action having to take in with CSX because of their involvement in their agreement on the corridor. So that's been an outstanding issue that we've known. We presented that as part of the transition documents last year. So that's an ongoing issue. I wasn't at TAC this week, so I don't know the specific conversation. Arcusy Road, we did start about 2 years ago that conversation with Orlando. We have actually quarterly meetings with them, and we transfer a lot of roads back and forth, mostly to Orlando because they're growing. We did end up transferring a lot of stuff over in the Sunbridge area, so we kind of put that one on hold. We actually have another quarterly meeting in November, and it will be on my agenda because it does make sense as they've annexed and developed most of their area. Generally, that's our rule. If they have most of the surrounding area around a roadway, we talk about transferring it. But we did optimize the signals recently. It's operating close to. I just looked at the volume today. It's at about 58,000, and the capacity for 6 lanes is 60,000.
And Brett, in your opinion, what percentage are people who live in St. Cloud that just go through there?
St. Cloud, I do not know St. Cloud.
We say half of the traffic is going to Osceola County?
I didn't see an ordered destination, no. But, I mean, there's a lot of activity right there in Orange County, certainly, too. So I don't know the percentages. And obviously,
my son goes to Lake Nona. So, it's personal to me because my son goes to Lake Nona High School. Mm-hmm. So tonight I'm going back over there to pick him up at some event. So I'll be going through there. I see some changes, the good ones. I see more green lights back and forth. But if City of Orlando wants to take over and for them to pay for it, sure, why not? It's the City of Orlando anyway. I want a clarity on the comment that he made.
Yeah, and I think we have a number of roads throughout the city that are Orange County roads that we've been having discussions with, sections of Gore, LB McLeod. There's lots of ones that we've been talking for because they're in a similar situation. So a lot of times what we do is we negotiate the cost that we would have done if we're about to resurface a project. This case, we already had some resurfacing. We might transfer the cost of the next resurfacing project, back and forth, whatever makes sense from a transfer. So we work out a lot of those agreements, but this one is certainly still on the table with the city.
Great. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Zach.
Thank you. So I had two things I want to bring up. First, I discovered recently bike buses. Is anyone else in the commission familiar?
Oh yeah, I failed to start one over to my school in the Avalon Park area, so I'm well aware of bike buses.
Okay, so
but go ahead and tell the
for anyone in the public who's not familiar, it's like a transportation phenomenon where people organize a bunch of kids who are riding to school together, where you have adult chaperones who start at the beginning of the route and the kids are waiting, and as the bikes come, more bikes join this conglomerate of bike riders, and by the time they reach the school, it's a long caterpillar of kids on bikes with chaperones. And I felt like maybe this would be a good idea for us to explore, like how could we perhaps, as TransMAC, can we find a situation where we could easily facilitate this and then be able to point to it as a good example of something to do in other places? We can bracket that for some later point of conversation or consideration. In the more immediate, I was hoping that we could come to some kind of a consensus as to whether pursuing the Agile Mile and Rideshare app would be a feasible use of the funds. I felt like I had communicated what I thought made sense about it, and Courtney Reynolds from Agile Mile, she's here tonight. She came to the previous working agenda meeting. I wanted to make sure that I'm not assuming that I have any answers that any of the other members, for any questions that any of the other members might have. So, yeah, I think if we can talk about whether or not that's a good idea, I would appreciate it.
I'll just say from my perspective on it, it was something that I definitely found interesting. I found the idea interesting and something that we could invest in. Personally, I would need a more dedicated presentation, probably from Agile about the program and about the cost and about what the investment we would be making in. And that's something that I would definitely be interested in here. I'm not sure when we could get that into our agenda. And say our next two meetings are in our districts, so there can be more district-specific presentations and information we'll be hearing. And then we start our budget work in January. So it is definitely something that I am personally interested in, but I feel like I need to learn more, but I'm just not sure when that more is going to be available to us in terms of that time.
So if we're talking about the stuff that right now that Lauren is going to pursue to bring back the information to decide if we can work on it, wouldn't now be the time to decide? I would assume if we're going to punt this to later and have other things that we're putting forth to consider for the budget, that's going to segment the timeline. And if we want to be able to implement it, we would want to be able to do it as soon as possible.
Right, and so that's the difficulty I have, because even to get to the Lauren, I'll call it the Lauren stage where she does the proposal, I don't feel like I personally have enough information to generate a consensus to vote, not vote for it, but like voice my own consensus that yes, I feel like this is worth pursuing. Lauren, do a proposal for us, bring us information. I feel like I don't know enough personally about the program yet to make that determination, and so I would want to learn more. it just comes into the timeline. Where do we get that information on timeline of meetings within our duties? That's my perspective.
If I can make a quick comment, we're going to your district next. So we are currently going to be doing a short presentation on, just like I did tonight. We'll have Umberto coming in and doing the Vision Zero presentation. If it could be a short presentation, would that be okay since it'll be in Zach's district? Would that be an option?
I don't have any personal opposition. That's fine. I just want to make sure that we, our agenda is reasonable, and we can accomplish things we want to accomplish in that specific district. Not that District 6 members could not benefit from Agile Mile, but I certainly don't have any personal opposition if we think we can fit it in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, I'd just be curious to hear if any of the other members have any opinion one way or another.
I did have a question. We were talking about indemnification. Who's being indemnified? The county or Agile Mile in that process? I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
Courtney, I think that's your bat signal.
I just want to make sure I had clarity of what I was comprehending, because I know we didn't go into detail on it. So
Sure. I talked fast and it was a lot of information. So, hi everybody, I'm Courtney Reynolds. I'm COO of Agile Mile and I do live here locally. It all depends on the contracting, and we do contract primarily with government agencies, either counties, DOTs, or state governments. And if there is a requirement that we indemnify the client, that is something we've done in the past.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was perfect. That was my question.
Thank
So
you.
I appreciate it.
Anyone with thoughts on an Agile Mile presentation at our next meeting? Everyone's
Presentation's fine by me. I would, in order for me to advance the thinking on this, it'd be very helpful to know the type of investment that it would take to get true engagement in the technology in the app. I think the numbers you mentioned, I think the caveat there was very little outreach from the client or that specific client. I would really want to know what that means. How do you get subscribers to engage in it, and what that cost is beyond just the maintenance cost of the app itself.
Right. Okay. It sounds like a topic for the presentation. So I think, Lauren, we've heard that we seem to be good that if we can fit it in the agenda for next month, that we can have a presentation, which I'm sure Courtney will answer all our questions and then some at that time. So okay. Any other member comments? General member comments?
Just one, and that was the aspect of, I know we got with these meetings going out, and this is so important that we get out in the community. But I really enjoyed our work sessions. I felt we got to dig into things a little bit more than we can in a setting like this, and I would encourage us to look at doing that more.
100%. I agree. Any other comments? Okay.
My last one.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to thank the commission and staff and the crew for coming out to District 3 and doing this out here. Really appreciate that, and thanks to the public and I have some fellow colleagues here in the audience as well. Thanks for everybody showing up and being part of this conversation. It was great.
How are you going to steal my thunder like that? That was my closing line.
It's my district, so I'm thanking my people. Now it's yours.
I can't do it now. No, I do want to thank everyone, especially members of the public. Like I said before, we are citizens just like you. We are volunteers. We want to make this community better in all sorts of ways, but especially in transportation. It's not something we can do on our own. We need your help to get us there. And do me a favor, tell all your friends about how much fun you had here at TransMAC tonight. So maybe when we come next time around, we'll fill this room and then some. Maybe we'll put it in the gym with the basketball players if we have enough people. Motion.
I was just going to say, can we list the next location and the date for?
Absolutely. Well, someone with that information will definitely provide it for us.
Thank you.
Yes, the next meeting will be November 13th. Sorry. The next meeting will be November 13th in District 6, Barnett Park and Recreation Center.
Okay. All right. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.